So today we're going to make a really fun and customizable gift. It is called a pressed flower or pressed foliage frame. So here are some examples of what a finished pressed frame is going to look like. So you see there's a blend of different natural materials, feathers, flowers, leaves. So today the frame that I'm going to make is going to be a clover. And then another frame is going to be a feather. Fun fact, dogs love pressed flower frames. So the first step is finding the materials that you want to press and that you want to use in your frame. You can find them anywhere. You can find them in your backyard, a local park, or on a hike in the forest. So once you figure out the material that you want to use, whether it's leaves, grasses, flowers, you want to make sure that you're pressing the material in a nice heavy book. So just place it in the book, close it, flip it over, and if you can, put some extra weight on top and let it stay like that for at least a day before you check on it again. So while we're waiting for our flowers and leaves to get pressed in the book, we can pick out a frame that we want to use. You can find frames anywhere. You can find them at craft stores and as well as thrift stores. So you get a little bit more variety at the thrift store maybe, and you want to make sure that no matter what, you clean and dust off the glass piece of the frame before beginning. So I'm going to use a lens wipe. That's commonly used for sunglasses, eyeglasses, things like that. Just open that up and make sure you carefully, because sometimes these edges are sharp, you want to just carefully wipe down the glass frame, because no one wants to get a dirty frame as a gift. So you can see this one's pretty dirty. Just wipe that down, nice and careful. And then we're going to do the same for the second frame that we're going to make as well. Okay. And then of course you can just dust off the edges of the frame as well, so that looks nice. And depending on the size of the frame, you might need a glass cleaner. So this would be sprayed onto a paper towel or reusable cloth and wiped onto the glass. But since these frames are smaller, I'm just using a little tiny lens wipe for that. So now that we have the picture frame that we want to use, and we've disassembled it to get to the glass to clean that, we want to make sure that we get the cardboard backing or matte backing, because this is actually what the raw materials are going to be attached to. So this backing doesn't look really nice. We probably want to cover this up with something else, a little bit cleaner, a little bit more decorative. So for this particular frame, I'm just going to choose a nice plain background. So I would take this piece and trace it. Okay, so I've pre-traced it. And then I would cut it out. And this is what our raw material is going to be attached to. So it looks a little bit cleaner, it looks a little bit nicer. And for the second frame that we're going to make with the feather, I chose a background from a bird photography book that I had. So I used the cardboard backing to trace the size that I would need, and I cut it out. So there we go. That looks a little bit nicer and cleaner than the cardboard itself. Though I guess you can choose if you want to just stick with the plain cardboard, but you can also use things like wrapping paper, wallpaper even. I've used velvet, a piece of raw velvet in the past. So it's really up to you how you want to design it. All right, so we have our pressed materials, we have our raw materials, and we're just gonna place them in a nice pattern on our matte backing. So I have the clovers here. I'm gonna place a nice little piece of pressed baby's breath there. And once you're happy with the placement, just reassemble the frame. Put the glass piece back on top. Be careful, it might be a little raw along the edges. And then replace the outer piece of the frame. If there are pins, just put those back in place so everything's held together. And for our second frame, our feather frame, A little bit simpler. I'm just gonna find a nice spot for the feather. You can use tweezers if you want. Just move it around and replace the glass once again and make sure that everything fits. This is a slide-in frame, so I have to actually pick this up and put it all together. So there we go.